Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I wanted to share with you the latest about what's going on in Ukraine with the war that Russia has started. So Zelensky has announced that he's going to hold a vote to basically allow the citizens to vote and have a say in whether or not they should take Russia's deal, Russia's ultimatums is what you can really call them, basically to surrender and give up part of the country. So he's going to make that a democratic process, as he's tried to make the country in general. Russia had issued an ultimatum to Ukraine on the weekend that by Monday morning at 5 a.m. that they would need to lay down their weapons in the city of Mariupol. That is the city that's on the coast that has been under siege now for many, many days, that people are trapped. They're without water, without food, without electricity. They said that if Ukrainian troops did that and laid down their arms, that they would allow civilians safe passage out of that city. But they've bombed people there before, as they said that they were going to allow safe passage. And they said, if you do that, the people who remain will face a tribunal, but everybody else will be allowed to leave. Well, now, because Ukraine essentially told them to go fuck themselves, and rightfully so, Russia has now started to hit them with bombs, hit that city with bombs from the ocean. So they are launching munitions onto the land from their ships, from their Navy ships. So in the past few days, Russian forces also bombed a theater. It was clearly marked with the word children written in large letters on the grassy area outside. It was large enough to be seen from the sky, but they bombed it anyway. So Ukrainian leaders are now saying that there's approximately 1,300 people who were in there, including children, and many of them are still trapped. They're in the basement of the building. They're trapped because, Russia is continuing to shell the area, so they can't even send in rescue groups. Russia also bombed a Ukrainian Marine base. That was over the weekend as well, I believe, if I remember correctly. That left about 40 people dead. They hit an aircraft repair facility near Lviv. That was also bombed, and there were reports of Russian troops using tear gas and live ammo to disperse a peaceful protest in the city of Kherson. Ukrainians were sharing a video on Twitter in which you can see plumes of smoke, and then it was followed by rapid gunfire and people running. Then there was another video that showed someone lying on the ground, and they were surrounded by others who were checking on this person. I couldn't see if it was a male or a female, and there was pools of blood nearby. And this is far from the only report of Russia committing war crimes and shooting civilians for no reason. You guys may have heard there was an American from Minnesota named Jimmy Hill. He was killed while he was standing in a bread line last week when Russian forces attacked. He was waiting to retrieve food for his longtime girlfriend and others who were patients at a nearby hospital, and the hospital was running out of food. So he would go there daily to get rations for them, and they gunned people down. So the Ukrainian government is now warning that Belarus may also be positioning their troops to attack. For some positive news, there's, according to a report from The Intercept, there are 10 Russian biologists, including some who reside in Russia. So they're really taking a risk in coming out and saying this, but they've reviewed Russia's so-called quote unquote evidence of the US funding bioweapons in Ukraine, and they say that it's complete bullshit. These biologists, like I said, who are literally risking life and limb, they say that the Russians' documents include relatively harmless pathogens that are used in basic public health research. One of the biologists, a man named Eugene Lewitin, I believe is how you pronounce it, he received an advanced degree in biology from Moscow State University, as well as the Biotechnology Research Institute. And I can't pronounce the name of the institute. But anyway, in his letter, which has now been turned into a petition, he wrote that the documents that Russia is pushing, that they're using as an excuse for this inexcusable war, that they do, quote, not imply any development of biological weapons or even the use of particularly dangerous pathogens in the laboratories. The list of destroyed strains published by RIA Novosti and other Russian media outlets contains not a single particularly dangerous strain. The list contains only strains common to microbiological and even more so to epidemiological laboratories. Another bit of good news is that Russia traded 9 of their soldiers for one of the Ukrainian mayors who had been abducted, Ivan Fedorov. It's also being reported that 5 of Russia's generals have been killed in the war, and the Russians suffered a pretty bad defeat, pretty embarrassing defeat in the strategically important city of Voznesensk. I think that's how you pronounce it. So even though Ukrainian forces were very outmanned and outgunned in this city, Russian troops basically just had their asses handed to them. And so they fled. And they left behind 30 of their 43 vehicles. And they said that it includes tanks, armored personnel carriers, multiple rocket launchers, and trucks. And Ukrainian commanders say that if they had allowed the Russians to take that city, it would have effectively cut the entire southern region of Ukraine off from the rest of the country. In other news, Slovakia has agreed to immediately send long-range missiles. These are surface-to-air missiles to Ukraine, and they said they'll do that if the U.S. will agree to replace the weapons. The U.S. hasn't committed to that agreement, but Germany has now stepped up, and they said that they'll be sending some of their Patriot missile systems to Slovakia. So I don't know if that lets the U.S. off the hook or if they still want U.S. missiles or what the deal is, but I'll let you guys know as that whole thing shakes out. And Republican lawmakers are now jumping on the Ukraine aid bandwagon, right? They've obviously seen the polls showing that even their own constituents support more assistance for Ukraine. So now a bunch of them are doing a complete 180. Many of them who voted against the billions in aid for Ukraine are now calling for the US to do more. So, although there are still some fascist-loving holdouts, notably 8 Republicans voted against ending normal trade relations with Russia and Belarus. That was a bill that was brought up. You can probably guess who some of these dictator lovers are. Jewish space laser lady herself, old Marge down in Georgia, accused child sex trafficker Matt Gaetz. My husband likes to whip out his junk in front of girls at the bowling alley, Lauren Boebert, that whole Q crew. They all belong in prison. But anyway, who needs GQP members, though, when you have Anonymous? The infamous hacker group was able to display the truth about Russia's war in Ukraine on Russian CCTV cameras on their displays. They hacked into the CCTV system and they displayed messages that said, quote, "Putin is killing children. 352 Ukrainian civilians dead. Russians lied to 200rf.com and Slava Ukraine." Also, it said hacked by Anonymous. So they're putting it out there that they did this. So the 200rf.com website, this was allegedly created by a department within the Ukrainian government. And what they're doing is they're showing photos and videos of the war, of what's going on. And they said that the intended purpose of this website was to allow Russian citizens to locate their relatives who had been sent to fight in Ukraine. And so they're sharing photos and videos, they say, that are sometimes graphic because some of these people are not still alive. So another thing that Anonymous announced that they did is that they've now hacked into printers in Russia. They're sending thousands of pages to printers in Russia that details everything that's been going on with this war. They're trying to break through Putin's propaganda bubble. They're trying to reach the people of Russia and tell them the truth about what's going on, how many civilians have been killed, and so forth. So they did that. And what do you know, Jewish space laser lady. She spoke up and she was saying anonymous, shouldn't be a part of this. I don't remember what all her ridiculous tweets said, but they didn't take too kindly to that. So they told Miss Jewish space laser lady that they would be going after her next too. They were saying that they called her a Russian asset, and they said that they will not be kind to the Russians, nor will they be kind to her. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what Anonymous digs up on Marge. Others getting into the fight to fight against this Russian propaganda is a group of computer programmers and volunteers. They call themselves information warriors. And according to the Washington Post article about this, quote, they've built tools that allow anyone to surprise Russian citizens with text messages detailing the war's civilian death toll. They've published anti-war videos and news sites built to evade Russian government bans. They've even cobbled together databases with the personal details of Russian military personnel, all in the hopes of fomenting rebellion across the new Iron Curtain. So that's good. People are coming at them from all fronts. The Washington Post has also announced that they've lifted their paywall for Ukraine and Russia. So this will allow their residents unrestricted access to news about the war. This might help with younger residents, but it's become clear that there's just this great media divide between the younger and older Russians. Younger Russians who tend to be more tech savvy, and they gather their news from online and from independent sources. They're now fighting with their older family members who tend to get their news from Russian state TV. Some are saying that they're trying to get through to their family members. Others are saying, I've given up. It ended our relationship because they just won't believe it. And we started yelling at each other. One woman said it ended with her mother in tears, so she's just not even going to try anymore. Others are like, oh, I'm just never going to speak to them again. So we in America can relate. Another really great update is about the news producer that I mentioned last week. She was the one who bravely burst onto the set of a live newscast. She had a sign and she was yelling about, don't believe the propaganda and the war. So attorneys for Marina Ovsyannikova, I believe is how you pronounce it, they had said that she disappeared. They couldn't locate her. Well, she has since been released from custody and she was fined, basically the equivalent of a few $100 US dollars, I should say. She was also offered asylum in France, but she turned it down because she says that she doesn't want to have to start over in another country. But she does say that she fears for her safety and that of her children, but at least she's alive. She also said that she believes more than 50% of Russians are against the war. And, that may be the case because Russians told BBC reporters that they were either forced, paid, or lied to in order to get them to attend Putin's pro-war rally, which just took place. People are just terrified to speak out with good reason, and this is who Republicans are backing. After they say that they're against censorship, they're all for free speech, but they love Putin. Just love Putin, who completely will not allow his people to speak out, will not allow a free and fair election in the country, but they just love him. Yeah, makes so much sense, doesn't it? So Italy now has announced that they are backing Ukraine becoming a part of the EU. They've said now that Ukraine has definitively said that they will not join NATO. Italy says, yes, we are open to the idea of them becoming a part of the EU. The other good news is that Germany has now struck an oil deal with Qatar. So the Qataris are still saying, no, we haven't finalized anything, but Germany told reporters that, yes, the deal is final. We will now get a large portion of our oil from Qatar, which means that they now can back off of their oil imports from Russia, which should deal them a significant blow because Germany does get a lot of their oil from Russia. The US also now today, I believe it was, has announced that there will be new sanctions imposed on Russia. And now there's talk of Russia potentially taking some sort of cyber action against the US. That is what the US government is warning, that they might hit us with some sort of cyber attack. That would be a red line, I believe, depending on what they hit, because they have said that it's a red line. The Russians, Putin has said, if the United States attacked us, took action with cyber warfare, it would be a red line. It would be considered an act of war. So why shouldn't we consider that to be an act of war? Again, I don't want to see us in another conflict. I don't want to see us, especially starting World War III. But at some point, you have to draw a line in the sand, because Putin is not going to respect it in any way, shape, or form if we show complete and utter weakness. So I think we've done a good job so far of tiptoeing up to that line without crossing over. But if he takes some sort of, cyber action against us, I don't know. If he takes down a power grid, how do you not respond to that? It is such a difficult situation. So I'll keep you guys posted as I hear more. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.